Auburn is on commit watch. I repeat, Auburn is on commit watch.
In a world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the book, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie 5.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Charlie 5. Happy freaking Big Cat weekend, Friday. All the big studs are going to start lining up and coming in this weekend. Several will be coming in this evening. We are going to dive into what could happen in the 2025 class, the 2026 class. Hopefully, have some fireworks going off to kind of end this little quote unquote perception of a recruiting slump. I think it's about to take off for multiple classes, 2025 and 2026. And we're going to get into that shortly. But before we do, we got to give a shout out to our boy Ford Stokes with retirement results presented by Active Wealth. Talk about commitment. If you're not really double checking, triple checking, verifying that your portfolio, your retirement portfolio, your savings can get you where you need to be and growing the way it needs to be growing, and you're taking advantage of all the things that are out there that will only benefit you. Are you really committed? Are you really even committed? You need to check out Ford Stokes. Go to retirementresults.com/plan and get that custom portfolio analysis absolutely free. Make a friend at the same time and tell him I sent you. Tell him War Eagle. Ford Stokes, great guy. Make a friend at the same time. All right, so obviously it's no surprise it's Big Cat weekend. We're going to be on commit watch. A lot of stuff hopefully popping off early and often as the weekend closes in. So where have we come from? Where are we? And hopefully where are we going in the near future? This hopefully will cap a perceived. It's not even real. I said perceived. It wasn't even really a perceived recruiting slump from a commitment perspective and a class perspective, even after you had Alvin Henderson commit on June 21st, which feels like forever ago when it's just it's barely a month ago. After he committed, things seemingly the brakes really, Auburn's recruiting machine really came to a screeching halt for a while. You had two decommitments, Carday Smith and Tyler Lockhart, that I guess some were kind of expecting that they could be a little bit shaky. And some were surprised about both of them, both four-star kids, both kids at the time. I mean, I think you still really want to get Tyler Lockhart back in the class. So you had two decommitments. You had some guys that were ready to kind of go around July 4th. You thought we're going to get the ball back rolling again. Those got kind of delayed. So then you're like, oh man, what's going on? We're a month in. We've only gotten one commitment since Alvin Henderson. A lot of people starting to freak. And then you throw in the quarterback situation where, is it going to be Julian Lewis? The smoke got really high that he possibly could be making a final decision, and then all of a sudden the ships kind of sailed on Julian Lewis as far as he and Auburn going to be able to make it happen. And then you got the different stories, the different things that have been going on with KJ Lacey and Deuce Knight. Will Auburn get one in this weekend? It's not looking good that Auburn will have a quarterback in this weekend, and not ideal, but not the end of the world with either one of them. I think you could still make a move on either one of them pretty quickly, even without them being at Big Cat Weekend. So you have all that going on, and Big Cat Weekend's finally here. You've got some guys that you feel are going to be right there as far as you got to keep your head on a swivel. You got to be watching them because they could pop at any moment. And then we're going to talk about if those guys do pull the trigger, who those guys are. If those guys do pull the trigger, where Auburn will be going into the season. Now, I'm going to extend Big Cat Weekend out a little bit because obviously we got a couple that are scheduled to commit on Monday, scheduled to commit on August 3rd, which is the following Saturday. What actually from the perspective of where Auburn recruiting is going to where it will be after that, we're going to dive into that. But let's talk. None of these are going to be super big surprises because they're sort of being talked about everywhere. But obviously, number one, the one that you feel like is the most rock solid to commit on Big Cat Weekend is Blake Woodby. Kind of felt like Blake Woodby, the 4-star corner from Maryland, would be a part of this class already. I think it was one of those things where he's so locked in that you feel comfortable letting him be able to be that Big Cat weekend, kind of kick off that weekend, kick off the excitement, and let sort of the focus be around him. I think he's the most solid one that's going to pull the trigger this weekend and add another big time playmaking corner that can also, if you watch his film, great return guy. Super athletic, even played a little bit of offense. You give that kid a jet sweep or throw him a little slip screen, and it could be 6. So he's electric, and obviously he's a great corner as well. They played some really good competition. His school's played IMG, played Buford, so he's played some of the top competition, top high school competition out there. So Blake that would be awesome to go ahead and get him in. One that would be a surprise. Derek Smith, we talked about him on, I believe, Wednesday. Alabama commitment, top 100 player. I think some sites maybe even a top 50 player. Listed as an athlete. I think Auburn ideally wants him as a wide receiver. I want him as a wide receiver, but he could play safety as well. He's just a freak athlete. You get him in, the smoke is starting to billow that something with him could possibly happen this weekend. So if you get Blake Woodby this weekend, you get Derek Smith this weekend, you're really, really cooking. And that class rating is really starting to jump up there. But Derek Smith would be, I think he's going to be priority, one right after Blake, as far as let's go ahead and get him on the board. They're going to do everything they can to push to get him on the board and hopefully keep him from going to that Alabama visit on Sunday, the following day. So Derek Smith, definitely one I'd watch. There's a lot of smoke there. If you get him, you're feeling really good about where this class is going. And then Monday, you got Anquan Fagans. He's another one very similar to Blake Woodby that you felt confident about for a very, very long time. You thought he should have already been in the class, but you feel so confident that you're able to sort of let him have his moment, let him have the announcement on his own day, and we're cool with that. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous with him is there's talk coming out that he could go to the Alabama event on Sunday after his Auburn event. Ideally, you'd like to not have that happen. Ideally, you would like when he comes in this weekend, you go ahead and shut those talks down and get him, to either stay in Auburn another day or let's just don't go to Tuscaloosa the day before you announce. That would be that'd be a disaster if something were to be postponed. But there's not a lot of worry there. He's a big dog, another top 100 player, and he'd be fantastic for the class. As you're talking, one of the best players in the class when he commits, if he commits, which he should. You're one of the best players in the class, and he's really one of the best players in the state of Alabama as well. So that's another plus. You'd be flipping if you flip Derek Smith and you land Anquan Fagans. You're talking about two more top 10 players in the state of Alabama that you've picked off, and then you go to August 3rd. On 3, I believe, is having one of the recruiting sites is having a big commitment day on August 3rd. I think it's like 4 or 5 different announcements, and Jared Smith is going to be a part of that. That's why that August 3rd date is, it's kind of random. But that August 3rd date is going to be a big commitment day for On 3. So if he ends up pulling the trigger to the Tigers, that'll give you 4 guys in the span of a week. All 4 are going to be in the top 130 players in the country, and 3 of them are going to be in the top 100 players in the country. I think currently you got a pretty solid class, but you only have maybe one, depending on which site you look at, one or two players in the top 100. You got Eric Winters is a top 100 player, pretty much a consensus top 100 player. And then after that, you really don't have like a consensus. I guess Malik Autry is also a top 100 player on the rival. I'm sorry, the On3 industry average. But after that, you don't really have any top 100 guys. Where a lot of your rivals are sort of stacking up your top 100 players. So after this weekend, instead of two, you could have five top 100 players, which I think is great. Also, this is the crazy thing. So if all those commitments go as planned, okay, all those commitments go as planned, Auburn will be sitting somewhere around. If you look at you can only do this on the 247 site, the class calculator. If all those people land like they're supposed to land, Auburn will be at the point total that they were at the end of the year last year. So in December, Auburn was at, whatever the point total was, 275 recruiting points, whatever. If all those four guys end up pulling the trigger, Auburn will be at that point on August 3rd. That's pretty crazy. So that's going to put you somewhere in the neighborhood currently in the top six teams in recruiting, which is where we need to be. And then if you don't have another commit for the whole rest of the year, you're going to be a top 10 class, which is where you got it, where the minimum of where you have to be able to compete in the SEC. But obviously, Auburn's going to add more guys as the year goes on. So that's just a little bit of perspective when you think about, when you're talking Auburn recruiting and you're thinking it's lacking, or you're thinking it's not as good as last year. As a matter of fact, it's as good as last year, and it's as good as last year in August. Okay. So you still got September, October, November, and the early part of December to kind of focus on flips. So the Auburn 2025 class really is on the precipice of, something, exploding. And I think Auburn's going to catch a lot of headlines over the weekend, not only with the 2025 class, but also with the 2026 class. So switching gears. So 2025, 2025 looking great. Hopefully going to have a great weekend. And then subsequent following week, you really just got to if you can get that quarterback situation figured out, if you can pull off a Deuce Knight, if you can pull off a KJ Lacey, it really takes the, I guess, the trajectory of the class to the moon. So really need to pull off one of those. And I think Auburn feels confident they can get one of those guys. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, definitely looking up for the 2025 class. This 2026 class, guys, I don't even know what to say. Like, this 2026 class is about to explode, and it's going to be it has potential to be one of the best classes in Auburn history ever. Definitely in state, it has potential to be one of the best classes ever. And I know it's a long way away and a lot of things can happen, but you're just looking at not pie in the sky stuff, just realistic stuff that could start popping off this weekend, and just kind of give you an idea of where you're going to be where you could be after this weekend. So to kick it off, I've been talking about Hezekiah Harris. He got some predictions earlier in the week. He's going to be a future 5-star edge. Just a really, really freakish athlete that loves Auburn. And he could possibly get the party started as far as commits go. 2026 defensive end, 6'6", 230 plus, a lot of range, number 2 player in the state of Alabama. He could go ahead and be the first commit of the weekend. We'll see what happens there, but he is a primo pass rushing prospect that you got to have. And if Auburn does what they're supposed to do this weekend, should go ahead and get him on the commit list. He's definitely one you got to watch. And then my favorite player of the class in 2026, Shadarius Tootle. I love linebackers. One of my favorite positions. And when you can find a kid who's a upcoming junior, who's 6'3", 210, 215 already, with the range that this kid has and the athletic ability that this kid has. Oh my goodness. From Mobile on top of that, My gracious, let's go. I'll take that. He is definitely one that's got some predictions as well this week. Auburn feels really good about its chances of him possibly popping this weekend too. And then you throw the Jamichael Garrett, who's another freaky. You're talking about almost a clone of Eric Winters. Okay, look at Eric Winters, and then go look at Jamichael Garrett. They almost look the same as far as body type, the size, and then ranged. Kid plays some safety, then he'll step down and play linebacker and knock your helmet off. Had some great plays in the state championship game this year. Played both ways, and then I think 5A, 5 or 6A, which is up there as far as classifications in Alabama. Gulf Shores is kind of turning into a little bit of a football factory, and Auburn would love to have Jamichael Garrett go ahead and pull the trigger. I think he said, I'm looking at the end of July. Well, it just so happens Big Cat Weekend is the end of July. So it's Auburn and LSU. Auburn's going to have him here this weekend. I think ideally you'd love to go ahead, close the door on that one, and line up. That would be number 2, number 3, and number 8 in the state of Alabama that you could have committed this weekend. If those three guys pull the trigger this weekend, Auburn would have the number 1 class at this point in time in 2026. If you feel super confident about the first 2, Hezekiah Harris, Shadarius Tootle, Jamichael Garrett, it could, he could push it back. He has said, I want it to be ended by the end of July, but you're not as supremely confident with him as you are with the others. So if you only add those 2, you'd have 4 commitments. You'd be the number 2 class in the nation in 2026. So, and then you just talk about Big Cat Weekend in general. Number 1 through 8 in the state of Alabama are scheduled to be here. I think there's 5 stars from the 2026 class that are locked in to be here. It's incredible. Like the 2026 buzz, and especially it's wild. Most of it's on defense. Most of it's defensive. Like the defensive recruiting is insane right now. I think, heck, it has every player we've talked about so far that could join the list, minus Derek Smith and he could even play defense, or defensive guys, which is fine. Hey, I love defensive studs. You got to be able to play defense in the SEC to make it happen. But recruiting in general for the 2026 class seems like it could be one of the best classes you've maybe ever seen at Auburn. Now, there's a lot of time till 2026 signing day. There's a ton of things that can happen. Ultimately, this doesn't matter. Ultimately, none of this matters if you can't put a good product on the field this year. I think that's something that's very, very important. I think it's something that you're very, very locked in. They're very, very locked in, especially on offense, to make that happen. And I think that's probably why the emphasis is to have 21 commits or 20. I believe it'd be 21. If by August 3rd you get who you want, let's see, you would have, I think, 21 commits. Let me make sure I'm right on that. Yeah, you got 16 now. You add 4, you'd have the 4 we talked about. I'd give you 20 commits by August 3rd. That gives you the flexibility. That gives you the flexibility to kind of, hone in on, lock in on the season, not focus so much about putting so much effort into going out and flipping kids or getting kids. You're just maintaining who you got. And then you only have a select few targets that you're going to go out and try to, go flip, or these big dogs like Andrew Babalola, Usman Chroma, those guys that you want to add to the class. You can kind of hone in on those, but focus on the season as well, because the season is big. This season is monstrous as far as keeping the recruiting momentum going. Again, I've said it like a broken record. If you can go out and start 5-0 and look good on offense, heck, if you go out and start 4-0 and look good on offense, you're going to talk about a hype that's going to be crazy, because I feel like Hugh has done such a good job with the relationship piece, with sort of selling Auburn, that everybody's sort of like, man, I'd love to go there, but I really need to see it. If you can show it to them over the first couple of weeks of the season, I think you could see a recruiting momentum wave that would be will be something big, especially if you can somehow pull off one of those quarterbacks, and then just put together a good good offensive output over the first couple of weeks of the season. So big stuff happening this weekend. I'm thinking keep your head on a swivel as far as live shows, things like that that could pop after commitments and things like that. So just be on the lookout this weekend. There could be a lot of stuff going on. Definitely going to be a lot of commitments. I'm anxious to see how it all unfolds. It almost seems like there could be too many guys committing, and you want to give it's going to be hard to give everybody their time to shine. So for all those that have been kind of, a little bit negative, a little bit down about recruiting, it's about to kick off. It's about to pick up, and we're going to have a lot of fun, hopefully, over the weekend and in the next week. So, guys, if you like this video, like it. If you like this channel, subscribe to it. You definitely need to hit that alert bell for this weekend because you never know what could happen. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's _Charlie_5. And we're going to be back Monday. We're probably going to be back before then, but definitely going to be back Monday for the rest of the, daily during the week, breaking it down, talking about it. And hopefully we have a big weekend, a lot of fun to break down. So, guys, I really appreciate it. Another great week. And again, we'll be back again next week. So this is another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay button.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.